Dear students, in this video, in the Town Life Part 2, we will discuss the administrative and political experiments during the medieval Europe. So, let us start with the administrative and political experiments. Some of the medieval towns had good administration. Enterprising town dwellers were keen on having a well organized and efficient government. Particularly, Italian towns like Venice and Florence were well governed. They even conducted political and constitutional experiments like the ancient Greek city states. Their functions were similar to those of a state. Town councils organized defense, made laws, imposed taxes, collected customs duties, administered justice, gave charity, encouraged colonies abroad, and made treaties. Then the next important point is the medieval guilds. In medieval towns, guilds played a conspicuous part. In fact, a study of towns cannot be conducted without discussing on the medieval guilds. Hundreds of merchant guilds and craft guilds were emerged during this period. They rendered invaluable services to the manufacturers, traders, workers, and consumers. They had much social service to their credit, and social life moved around them. They arranged social functions and feasts in guild halls, enabling members to meet one another. They had religious functions too. They participated in religious celebrations and processions. Each guild had a patron saint and generally supported a shrine or chapel. In ancient Rome, there were guilds, but these were destroyed when the barbarians looted and burnt down the towns and cities. When there was a revival of town life in the 10th and 11th centuries, guilds once again made their appearances. These were organized along the lines of the guilds at Constantinople. Medieval guilds should not be regarded as trade unions of the present day because their activities were multifarious. The efficient guilds discharged the combined functions of the modern employers associations and employees unions. Then we will discuss about the Italian guilds. Italian guilds, whose number was large, were the leading ones in Europe, as it was in that country that Roman institutions were preserved. In the city of Florence, there were many craft unions and guilds. Textile dealers, wool traders, chemists, bankers, fishmongers, butchers, bakers, candle makers, innkeepers, clockmakers, weavers, armor makers, swordsmiths, and silversmiths had organized themselves into unions. In France and Flanders, guilds were revived in the 11th century. Then guilds in Germany. Germany had several local associations of a religious or cultural character, and from these emerged guilds of various types. By the 13th century, German guilds were efficiently organized and they played a great part in the life of the community. Some of them became so strong and influential that they desired to dominate over municipal councils, political institutions, and economic organizations. The Hanseatic League was a very strong and influential guild with a membership of 80 cities, of which Lübeck, Cologne, Brunswick, Visby and Danzig were the most important. It even established factories in Denmark, Sweden, Russia and England. It worth to mention that 13th century AD, in 13th century AD, almost all towns had well developed guilds. Then let us know about the merchant guilds. In the 11th century, most of the guilds were of independent merchants and master craftsmen. They were organized on sound lines and had good leadership and ample funds. They did much to protect the interests of the merchants and all those who depended on them. The services they rendered were manifold, and all persons in a community, manufacturers, buyers, sellers, workers and consumers, derived benefits from them. Purchasing raw materials in bulk, ensuring goods against fire and losses, organizing food supply, building and maintaining road and docks, protecting highways, maintaining high standards of goods, fixing reasonable prices and wages, supervising markets and levers, and weeding out dishonest traders and producers, etc., were some of the basic functions of the leading guilds. So, these were the work or the functions of the guilds in medieval Europe. They also took deep interest in political and government affairs. They controlled municipal councils and held communes struggling against oppressive kings, nobles and bishops. Unfortunately, in course of time, they became so powerful that they themselves became oligarchies which could be oppressive like kings and nobles. A guild had a patron saint. Its affairs were managed by its own capable officers consisting aldermen, recorders, treasurers, bailiffs, sergeants and others. It had its own codes for settling disputes between members before going to a court of the government. It had its own well-built and beautified guild hall. Then let us know about the craft guilds. Craftsmen were controlled by but excluded from the merchant guilds. So, in the 12th century, craftsmen in each industry formed their own guilds. In the 13th century, craft guilds could be found all over Europe. Paris had about 100 craft guilds. Venice had 58, Genoa had 33, Florence had 21 and Cologne had 26 guilds. Like the merchant guilds, the craft guilds were also managed with great efficiency. Each protected the interests of its members and developed a kind of monopoly. It paid great attention to division of labor and expected a high level of efficiency from craftsmen. Each guild guarded its interests most jealously, and no one could become a craftsman unless he was a member of a particular craft guild. Then let us know about the rules and regulations of craft guild. Craft guilds had their own assemblies which elected the guild leaders. Each guild made its own rules subject to the laws of the state and the regulations made by merchant guilds. These rules dealt with the working condition of the craftsmen, their wages, prices of their products, number of masters in an area, apprenticeship, and other matters. Each guild aimed at producing high quality goods on which it put its own trademark or guild mark, guaranteeing the standard. Disciplinary action was taken against members, including in fraudulent practices like cornering goods and creating artificial scarcity. And this artificial scarcity we also face nowadays in our market system. Anyway, so this artificial scarcity, lowering the quality of the products and raising prices. So, disciplinary action were being taken against these kind of activities. Poor quality goods were seized and destroyed or given away. Like merchant guilds, craft guilds also rendered beneficial social services. They built churches, schools, hospitals, gave poor relief, provided insurance protection, arranged for funerals, paid dowries, and rendered many other odd services. They gave protection to craftsmen from the oligarchies tendencies developed by merchant guilds. Then apprenticeship in guilds. Craft guilds had a craft guilds prescribed a long and hard apprenticeship. In a craft guild, a person had to work long to develop the necessary skill. Strict regulations were made to ensure the production of high quality goods. The parents of a boy who aspired to be a skilled craftsman entered into a contract with a master craftsman. Generally, they paid him a small fee. The boy had to undergo an apprenticeship under the master for 3 years if it was a simple craft, and for 10 to 12 years if it was a difficult craft like the jewelers. He had to live with the master and serve him in his house and shop. An intimate relationship would be developed between the two. The master would behave as a foster father and exercise the father's authority. Food, clothing and shelter were provided by the master, though the boy received no payment. The master taught him to read and write and brought about his social, moral and technical progress. In a way, an apprentice was like a serf. Though he was not a slave, he had no freedom. If he ran away, he would be brought back and punished, and if he continued to play truant, he would not be admitted to the craft guild. After serving successfully for the term as required, the apprentice would be promoted to the rank of a journeyman, moving from one master to another as a worker. The lot of the journeyman was hard and unenviable. Hours of works were long and payments were small. However, he had more freedom than an apprentice. After 2 to 3 years of service, as a journeyman, his ability was put to difficult test by a board of the guild. If he passed the test, he became a master. A master was a worker, employer and retail merchant all enrolled into one. In some cases, a good sample of the craft known as masterpiece had to be submitted to the governors of the guild. A master would not be recognized till he married and settled down, and was formally admitted into the guild as a master in the craft. Generally, a young man followed the craft of his father, but there were exceptions. The son of a butcher might take up the craft of a carpenter. Then Let us discuss the decline of the guilds, how the decline there was a decline started in the guild system. In course of time, guilds declined owing to various causes. As towns became more rich and prosperous, guilds became less democratic. They were dominated by a few powerful and wealthy masters, and the production and sale of goods were controlled by them. Gradually, the power of the state increased and it deprived the guilds of their former powers. The activities of the state expanded and those of the guilds contracted, and in due course of time the guilds declined. So, thank you students for giving a patient hearing. Thank you. In the next video, we will discuss the other aspects of the town life.